Hello, today's video is on how to create a bar graph. So the first thing you need to do is actually decide what kind of graph you're going to make. If you're not sure what kind of graph to make, please go into Google Drive, into your Science Resources folder, and open up the Graphing folder. In that folder, you will find a Google Sheets presentation about how to choose a graph. Now, I know I'm going to use a bar graph. If you look at the screen, you can see that my independent variable, which is type of chocolate, is words, white, milk, and dark. These are categories of chocolate. I know that when I have categories, I should make a bar graph. So let's get started. Now, there are two different bar graphs I'm going to make today. For the first one, I'm going to graph all of my trials. Sometimes it makes sense to graph your trials so you can really see what all of your data looks like, and at other times you just want to graph your averages. And I'll show you how to do both today. So as you can see on my screen, I have a really good data table. It has a title, the columns are titled, everything's ready to go. Let's make a bar graph. In order to start, I'm actually going to highlight my independent variable and all of my trials. You can see that they are highlighted in blue. I'm going to go up here and click on Insert. Now you're going to notice that I'm currently making this graph on a Chromebook. It is going to be my suggestion, my strong suggestion. In fact, you have to make your graph on a Chromebook as well. If you're not sure where to find a Chromebook, walk right around to the front of the science office. You'll see a cart that's full of them. Please grab one, grab a mouse, log in, go to your data table for your science project, and that's where you'll start making your graph. Again, I'm going to make a bar graph, so I've highlighted the cells, clicked Insert, and now I'm going to click Chart. Now, it just so happens that the Chromebook has chosen the proper chart for me. If you look over here in the upper right-hand corner, they're going to refer to it as a column chart. We call it a bar graph. Now, if I wanted to change the kind of chart, I would press the down arrow, and I have lots of choices. Now here, it's going to say that a bar graph goes sideways. For our purposes, we want bars that go vertically. The next thing I actually need to do is customize my graph. What parts do I need to customize? Well, if I look, this is not a proper title for a graph. A proper graph title should have both the independent and dependent variable listed. So I'm going to go here to where it says Chart and Axis Titles. I'm going to click on Chart Title, which is the title at the top of the graph. You can see it here, and I'm going to change that. Now, one of the best things to use for your graph title is the question you're investigating, your experimental question. So I'm actually going to copy this. You can see that my menu has disappeared. If I click on the chart and I click on these three dots, it'll bring up the menu back up. I go to Edit Chart, Customize, Chart and Axis Titles, the main chart title, and I'm going to paste what I copied. What type of chocolate melts fastest? And you can see that this has now appeared on my graph. The next thing I want to check is, does my x-axis have a title? It does. It's right here. It's type of chocolate. And if I look up here, my bar graph has a legend. So I know that the blue bars represent white chocolate, the red bars represent milk chocolate, and the yellow bars represent dark chocolate. So my x-axis is all set. If I look at the y-axis, which is my vertical axis, there's no label there. There's no units of measurement, and there's no title. So let's go back up to our Customize box. Instead of changing the chart title, we're going to change the vertical axis title, which for us is the y-axis. I click here, and now I'm going to type the title. It's time in seconds, and you can see it appears on the graph. This graph is now done. To make it easier, I'm actually going to move this graph to its own sheet. Now, if you look down here in the left-hand corner, you can see where it says Chart 1. This is the graph I've just made. And if I want to go back to my data table, I click on the tab that says Sheet 1. I'm going to go back. Now, I've actually made a graph of all of my trials, but now I want to make a graph of just the average. In order to do that, I have to make a smaller data table. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to highlight my independent variable. I'm going to copy and paste it. Of course, you're always welcome to use the shortcut keys on the Chromebook if that works better for you. Now I'm going to highlight my average column, copy it, and paste it. But as you can see, there's an error message. It says the reference does not exist. Oh, I know what that means. If I go back up here and click on the cell where the average was calculated, I can see that I've actually asked the program, Google Sheets, to do the calculation for me. What this error is telling me is that it no longer has access to the numbers it used to calculate the average. So let's try this a different way. This time I'm going to click on Paste Special, and I'm going to choose Paste Values Only. That means it'll copy the values that it found in those cells and paste them here. And there they are. Now I'm ready to make a graph of my averages for this experiment. Again, I'm going to highlight the cells. I can tell they're highlighted because they turn a shade of light blue. Go to the top of the screen and click Insert. Again, you're doing this on a Chromebook. Click Chart. And again, the Chromebook has picked the type of chart I want. I'm going to customize this because I really don't like the title. Let's go to Chart and Axis Titles. Let's go and select Chart Title. And again, I'm going to use my experimental question as the title for my graph. And there it is. I now have a good title for my graph. Okay, let's look at our x-axis title. It says type of chocolate. The 3 types of chocolate are denoted. I'm all set. Let's look at our y-axis title. It says average. Although this is the average, it's the average of what? Is it the average number of trials? Is it the average number of students who eat this chocolate? It needs more information. Let's go back to our Customize box. Click here on the down arrow and a menu comes up. I'm going to choose Vertical Axis Title. This is the average time in seconds. Okay, again, a really good looking graph. It has a graph title, the y-axis has a title, the x-axis has a title, my bars are marked, and I have a good scale on the left-hand side. So I'm going to move this to its own sheet. And there it is. So if I look, chart 2 is my average. Chart 1 denotes or shows a graph of all of my trials. And if I click on sheet 1, I go back to my data table. And there you have it. That's how to make a bar graph using Google Sheets.